This is a very heartfelt and deep message. Do you have peace in your life? Do you have peace in your finances? Do you hold yourself accountable for where you are today? If your answers to these questions are not in line with what you want in your life, you need to watch this video. I'm telling you, it would touch your core. Watch the video until the end. Share this video, subscribe, and notify. This video will change your life. I guarantee you. So stay tuned.
Hello, everyone. I'm Johnny.
And I am Teresa. Thank you so much for joining us today on Bartelle's Money Talk. I would ask that you would subscribe and also click that notification button so that you will know when we will be on again.
Today, we have a special guest, Mr. Robert Hunt. He is the accountability guy. Mr. Robert, could you introduce yourself, give us a little background, and tell us why you are the accountability guy?
Yeah, I kind of fell into that role over time. I moved to Texas in 2010. I was doing marketing consulting. That was my career. And I met someone who was leading peer groups for CEOs. And I fell in love with the idea of helping leaders be their best and to remove the things that are keeping them from reaching their goals. And so I jumped into that and started doing that 12 years ago now. And I love it. And as I watched people who own their own business make different decisions on how to handle things, I found that the ones who were truly accountable, and we can explain what accountable means, they were the ones who were rocking it. They had troubles, they had problems, they had all the things that business owners struggle with and people have issues with, but they owned it. And that's the definition of accountability, is you own it. And I watched the ones who did not own it struggle and fail and have their businesses go under and all those things. And it just was a proof that when you own it, you take the control of it, you have the chance to do something about it. And then we had the chance to live that out in our own personal lives, as we at one point owed $90,000 in debt, not including the house or the cars. And it was choking us out. And we got to a place in our life where we realized nobody cares. Nobody cares if you're broke. Nobody cares if your marriage is struggling. Nobody cares if you're angry at God because you've made decisions that you want everyone else to fix for you. Nobody cares until you care enough to do something about it. And that's what we did. We sold our house and we took all that money and we paid off all the debt and we started over. And that's where we are today.
Well, Mr. Robert, can you tell us how long were you married before you made a decision like that?
Well, we are married 26 years this year. So if I take off, you're going to make me do math, huh? So it's late at 20, married over 20 years. And I had been married once before, and Kathy had been married once before. And I went through a bankruptcy as a result of my divorce and lost everything and had to start over. And you'd think I would have learned my lesson that I always believed I should not be in debt, but I didn't live like that. I lost my edge. And starting my own business, we never made as much money as I used to make when I was an employee. I was director of marketing and sales. I made a lot of money. Well, you start your own business, you don't make a lot of money, but you spend a lot of money. And so it was a couple years where I drained the savings account and drained the retirement account, and then just kept going and further into debt, thinking, hey, next year it's going to be better. Next year it's going to work, and next year. And those are the traps that we see and we talk about in our book, that people blame, they make excuses, they say they can't do anything about it, or they just wait and hope it gets better. And we did all those things, and it got worse. And it wasn't until 2019 when we finally woke up and realized this is not how we want to live our lives anymore.
Robert, that was not long ago, but go ahead. That's only 6 years, well, almost 7 years ago. Like right before COVID.
Yeah, right before COVID.
Yeah, it was fascinating because in 2019, every year, my beautiful wife and I go away and do a planning session. She's my business partner. And we just decided, what are we going to do this year? And I said, this year, I'm not going to live like we've done before. I need to make a change. And we whiteboarded out, what do we really want? And at the heart of it was we wanted to please the Lord. And we just felt like we had lost our freedom to worship God and to walk with the Lord because we were angry at him for not fixing our problems. And we just kept stalling and thinking that next year it'd get better. And I said, this year, if it doesn't work out, we're going to sell the house and start over. So all year long, we're like, okay, God, show up, drop a big bag of money in the backyard and fix all these problems. And he did not. And so we committed in September that, hey, it's not working, let's do it. And so we found a real estate agent, sold the house, or got on the market. We sold it and closed March 30th of 2020 when the world was closing down with COVID. We moved into this house that we rent today. And by April had paid off everything we owed. And the peace I had was amazing. I had forgotten, I didn't realize how much stress I was under because, bit by bit, you just get more and more in debt and stress and problem. And you just get used to living in the way you don't want to be. But it's so subtle that when it's only recognizable when you change it and you look back and go, oh my gosh, I used to live like that. And then when I contrast the peace that God was giving me as I walked in obedience, I was living the life I wanted to, honoring my commitments, honoring my wife, all those things, the peace was phenomenal. And that's the time where we decided, accountability rocks, and we're going to look at everything in our life and change everything.
Mr. Robert, that's pretty powerful because I know, and you mentioned this early on about a book, and I know that the title of the book, it says "Nobody Cares Until You Do."
Yeah.
So is some of this what you're talking about now listed in your book?
This is the whole thing in the book. I wrote it with a friend of mine, Salem Thine, who is one of my clients, and we became friends over the years. And he encouraged me to write a book to talk about accountability because that's been my passion for years and years. And so he's a co-author, and he tells stories about his life, and I tell stories about my life, and we tell the story about getting out of debt. Salem talks about trying to kill himself at one point. He talks about his struggles and all the things we went through, not to bum anyone out, but to say, look, we're real. Life is real. We know what it's like. And when you want to make some excuse or say you can't do this or that, look, we've been there too. And so we only tee it up to just say we're not just someone you would say, oh, it's easy for you because you've got a great life. Well, we've had hard times. We've been through the mud, and we know what it's like. And we've also seen at the times when we don't take accountability how screwed up things get. But when you take accountability, you gain the power to change everything in your life. And so instead of being a victim, you take on the journey towards victorious life. And that's what we did. And those are the stories we talk about in the book, Nobody Cares.
Well, Mr. Robert, and I know you know this, but there are so many people that are broke. They are living paycheck to paycheck. They are trying to live the life like the Joneses.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what finally made you and your wife look at your picture and say, we can't do this anymore? Was it because you didn't have enough money in the bank? Was it because you were living paycheck to paycheck? What was the
Well,
breaking
heck,
point?
we'd been doing that for years. We were, no, here's the thing, no matter how much money I made, I always spent more than I made. And it was a really bad lifestyle. And we were broke and spending more than we had for a lot of years. That's how we got into debt. And every year the government would say, you owe this much in taxes. I'd say, I owe you, add it to my bill. And it would just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And in 2019, the only thing that changed was that we took some time to step back and look at our lives honestly and really decide what we really wanted in life. And what we really wanted in life was to please the Lord. And since we were angry at God and blaming him and spending all of our time looking at money or the money we didn't have, or being frustrated that God didn't do enough to give us what we wanted. The arrogance, audacity of us as people to look at the God of the universe and say, you're not doing enough for me. You owe me. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And we did that. And our idol became our attention, and we gave to the money and what it would mean to us and what we didn't have. So in 2019, when we really stepped back and said, we're not living the life we want. What do we want life to look like? And let's go chase that. And it was at that point when it was just miserable enough to do it. We say that when the pain of where you are is worse than the pain of where you're going to go, you'll change. And the idea of us to wait one more year to be in debt, stressed, worried, fearful, we were just done. We needed to go.
Okay. Look, and I'm like, I do have a burning one, but go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So with you being a man, we have this stigma with the man, and then it's pretty obvious that you are a man of God. You're the head of the house. Can you speak into the life of a man? Because it may be embarrassing to them to go to their wives and say, we can't live like this anymore.
Oh yeah.
Can you
And
encourage
the worst
them?
thing is the woman has her identity in the home more than the man does usually. And so for me, I'm like, it's just a house. Let's just sell it. What's the big deal? No. This is my home. We've raised our child here. We have our children here. We have all our family here for every holiday. This is home to her. And to me, it was just a place. So I could sell it and move on because I don't care. But I'll tell you, the only thing that made that possible was that I have a wife who believes that God comes first in our lives. And when I said, this isn't the life we signed up for, we decided we would serve the Lord and we're not doing it. And she was like, you're right. And let's do it. Now, she did not like the idea of selling the house. We had a movie theater upstairs. It was a huge house and we had beautiful furniture and you could have tons of people over and entertain. This house is not like that. And we had to sell off every bit of furniture because none of it would fit in this house that we were renting. So we moved in here with beds and dressers and folding chairs and tables and a TV. And we sold everything else in the old house. And clothes couldn't even fit in because the closet, we share a closet. We had a huge walk-in closet that was full. She still had stuff out in the garage. And so she sold and donated and gave away. And it was a really cathartic moment just to go, we're not like that anymore. Now we're this version of us. But I'll tell you, I would rather live broke. No, I would rather live debt-free with very little in a house with a woman who loves me than to have a bitchin' house and all the stuff and have stress and turmoil between us. It just wasn't worth it.
So So really, Mr. Robert, because I think that's a golden nugget for any of the listeners that's listening now, is that if you are in debt and if you are stressed out and if you are living paycheck to paycheck trying to figure out how you're going to make it to the next paycheck,
Yeah.
Mr. Robert just gave a golden nugget. Could you repeat that again, Mr. Robert, what you just said? 'Cause that was a golden nugget. That I think that needs to be repeated again so everybody can hear that.
I'm not sure what part you want me to repeat, but
I want
I
you
think,
to repeat the part that you said it's not worth being stressed out.
oh, well, anything you're in is hard to discern because you're in it. If you're in a pool and the water's a certain temperature, it feels lovely till you get out and it's cold, right? Or if it's cold, you go and it feels warm, you notice a difference. When you created a world that you've developed over time, you don't see it and you become numb to it. It's that frog in the water where you slowly turn the
Oh yeah.
temperature up and it cooks itself.
Yep.
And so most people don't get into $90,000 in debt overnight. It starts with
Right.
1,000, then three, and then 10, and then 20. And so all I'm telling you is look at your life and decide what you want for your life and stop making excuses or blaming or saying you can't or waiting to hope it gets better. Own it. That's what accountability is. You own it. In the book, we put an assessment. I know I haven't answered your question. Maybe I didn't do the golden moment yet, but there's an assessment in the book that you start at the beginning of the book and you declare honestly, how satisfied are you in your personal, professional life? And if you're not happy, satisfied, why? And that is when you realize I am making excuses. I'm blaming my bad boss. I'm blaming my spouse. I'm blaming my kids. I'm angry at God. I'm saying I can't do anything about it. I'm going to hope that maybe next year I can get out of debt. I'll just make minimum payments. And you're kicking the can down the road. It does not get better. It only gets worse. And very, very, very few people have a pot of gold that appears to them, a lottery ticket or a dead relative that shows up. You're going to live what you've created. So own it. When you take accountability for this, you take the power to do something about it. You're not a victim. It may suck. It sucked to sell my house. It sucked to sell our furniture. It sucked to have to tell my neighbors, hey, we're moving, we're downsizing and starting over because I have $90,000 in debt and I need to start over. And they looked at me like, wow, honesty, what's that like? And we just had to own it, telling everybody this is why we're doing this. It was part of us owning it, for lack of a better word. But I'm telling you, when you learn how to own something, you gain this wicked power that you could do anything. We had really put stress in our marriage after all these years of turmoil. So we started going to counseling. I didn't want to go to counseling. Women have things that guys don't have. They have feelings. And so I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to talk with a third person, but we'd been hurt. We both hurt each other in the process. And I let her down and she let me down. And so we needed to talk. We needed a referee who would kind of walk us through that. So here I am paying money to go to a counselor, but I needed to do this. And we're paying a guy to come look at our finances and look at how we spend our money and say, is that how you want to spend your money? So we had to make ourselves accountable to a process where we could get what we wanted, which is a better marriage, peace in our lives, a future and a hope. And you by owning it, you take on the power to get whatever you want. Don't like your marriage? Own it. Go fix it. Don't like your health? Own it. Go fix it. And the journey to do these things takes time. Took us almost 8 months to sell the house and a lot of work. And we had to sell up property and humiliate ourselves or humble ourselves, really. And that was a lot of work. But you can do it. You can do something about it because you own it and you have the power to do that.
You know, Mr. Robert, and the funny thing about it is when you was mentioning that you had to kind of share really your journey about you selling your house, you selling your furniture with your family, with your friends, and the actual because men, we do have pride.
Yep.
We have pride.
Yeah.
And when you have to tell somebody you have to sell your stuff because really you kind of overextended, you got too much money. I mean, you so much in debt that you need to get free. I know you put humility, but you're right. It's some shame to that too.
I think, but it's power at the same time. Nobody wants to have to admit anything that doesn't make them look good. But when
Right.
you tear
Correct.
through it, you own it. You're like, I mean, this horrible, awkward moment empowers you to have the next one because you're like, well, I guess I didn't have a heart attack and die by being honest about my problems. And the next time it's a little easier, and next time it's a little easier. And the process of becoming a person of accountability, which I am still working on, I will always be working on it. And I will always have people, as we have a common language with all my clients and all my friends, everyone knows the world of accountability. responsibility. And when I start to say something, well, I can't do that. And they go, oh, you can't? Because it's not that you can't, it's you won't. You say, I can't sell my house and start over. Yes, you can. You just don't want to. I can't not take my family on vacation. I can't not have Christmas gifts. I can't not. We still have one car. Today I had to drop her off at her job, go to do things I was doing, come back and pick her up and come home. And that's okay because I want to have one car for a while longer. I want to put money away. I want to build back my retirement. I don't ever plan to retire, but I need money in case I can't work someday. And so we're just going to go with one car for a while. And sometimes I take an Uber and sometimes I bum a ride with a buddy, but it's okay. You can get by with less. You just don't want to. But when the desire for what the life that you really want is there and clear in front of you, you chase that. This other stuff isn't so big a deal.
You almost need to be in a stadium. This is so moving and so powerful. And so now that you've done all of this, like it was not an overnight thing that you've done. If you look back, would you do it all over again? Sell your house and start over?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's something in nature called the trophic cascade. It's where the right thing changes everything. And if you ever get a chance, look up the video of the wolves in Yellowstone. And the trophic cascade was they reintroduced the wolves back to Yellowstone and it changed the whole valley. The whole valley came back to life. It was being decimated by the elk, but because they introduced wolves, it changed the behavior of the elk and it restored the valley into its lush, beautiful nature. It had been ruined by the elk and it went back to being normal. That was a trophic cascade. Our trophic cascade was selling our house and deciding that we're not going to make excuses for not living the life we want. And it's taken us years and we're still in this rental house and I'm not sure I'm ever going to buy a house. I'm 61. I don't know. Do I want to put money in a house that I got to decorate and maintain and put up with all the costs of owning a house and taxes when I could put it into an investment and have my future secure? Because maybe I can work for 20 more years. Maybe I can work for 10. I don't know when all of a sudden I'm going to get something where I can't work. So you got to be smart. Do you want to plunk 200,000? Oh, sorry, 500,000 into a house and then $200,000 in remodeling and furniture and then taxes? I could take that money and put it in investments and be able to provide for my future. So I'm thinking about what do I really want? And what I really want is peace. And what I really want is my beautiful wife in my arm every night when I go to bed. I want that woman right next to me and not have stress and worry and fear. And when I had debt, I woke up every morning thinking if I work my butt off, I'm still never going to get out of debt. And people live and they live like that so long, it just becomes normal. It's not normal. It's broken. It's wrong. It's not good for you. You're not living the life you want. I want to live the life I want. And that doesn't have to have money.
Well, it takes a lot to get me speechless.
Well, it take Miss Rob, but what you're really saying is because that's like almost a mind shift change in how you look at things, and actually based on where you want to go to where you are currently to actually get to that where you want to go. Because without shifting your mindset, shifting your thinking, you probably never get there.
But people don't know what they really want. If you really, really knew what you wanted, maybe you think the house is the solution. But a house with an angry spouse is not a great solution. So what you think the house will do for you is to build stature where you feel good about yourself. I grew up as a very poor kid and my dad couldn't keep a job and he beat all of us and it was a horrible environment. So when I got out on my own, just not being in that house was pretty great. And I lived in a little tiny apartment. I thought, this is golden. And everywhere I've gone, I just got a little bit better and a couch and then a little more. And this was a great life and everything was good until then you start to look around and go, that guy has a bigger house than that guy has a house. And then you get caught up in all this stuff that you think is going to do something for you, but you're chasing the wrong thing. What I really want is joy and peace and fun. It's not fun when you're in debt. You have to work so hard just to make your minimum payments. You have to work so hard just to keep up with stuff that causes stress and worry and fear. And God forbid anything break in your house. How am I going to pay for that dishwasher? How am I going to fix the car? I don't want to live like that. If we ever get together for another time, we could talk about the idea of margin. But in my life, I want to create margin, room for God to interrupt my life. And I lived so tight with money that there was no way that God could say, hey, see that guy over there who's out of a job? Give him $500 of the money I let you have. Now I tithe because that's my respect for the church and what the Lord's given me. But the rest of that 90% of the money still belongs to the Lord. He's just let me use it. And when I spend it all in such a way that there's no room for me to take the money that he gave me and use it to help someone else, that's a slap in the face to God. And so when I look at this, I want to create a world where I laugh and have fun and enjoy things and work hard and have money, but it doesn't have me. I'm just using it where God's leading me to, but he's never led me to a place of debt. God would never say, go get into debt. That'll help. This is foolishness.
Mr. Robert, when you think about yourself in 2018 and now we're in 2025, how has this changed you? Like, because the
Well,
word
there's no
that you're
fear.
bringing is powerful.
Yeah, there's no fear. I mean, so when you have debt, if you have to worry about losing your job, in my case, it was my business with my clients. What if I lose a client? I couldn't be bold. I couldn't say, yeah, I don't think you should do that because what if they don't like what I say and they don't hire me and I lose the business? So you have to pull your punches. You have to try and work around things. You live in constant state of fear that you're not going to have enough. So if you have enough and you have so much, you can just put some away and save and give graciously, and something goes wrong, you're like, oh, okay. But you live in fear otherwise. Can you imagine living in fear all the time? What does that do to your body? It just breaks it down. It's just exhausting. And I didn't know I was in so much fear till I got out of fear. But you with a lot of debt, you've put yourself in a place of worry and fear. And so my life is amazing compared to what it was in 2019. And I would tell everybody, be honest with yourself. Look at your life and say, am I satisfied with my life? And if not, why? And if you're blaming, making excuses, saying you can't, or waiting and hoping, you're a victim and you're purposely living as a victim. Stop, own it, say nobody cares to yourself. You say it to yourself. Nobody cares. If I'm broke, fat, unhappy in my marriage, whatever, nobody cares until I care enough to do something about it. And if you care enough to do something about it, the rest of the book walks you through the journey of how to live the life you really want by owning it.
And Mr. Robert, do you know how many people are driving cars that they cannot afford so that they can impress their friends and their neighbors? Can you speak to them? Because you're living a life and nobody cares, but you think people care.
I don't think we're aware of it as much. Again, it's commonplace. The thing that I found was really odd was that when we decided to make these changes, people are like, hey, settle down. It's not a big deal. Everybody has debt. It's okay. And I was amazed at how many people, and even sometimes today when I tell my story and I say, well, I had $90,000 in debt, the guy's like, $90,000. People are, it is very common for this world to live in debt, to live way beyond their means. And when you stand up and say, I'm not going to live like that, you look like, you think you're Amish or something, that you're rejecting society. But this is not how God created us. He did not create us to take all of our time and attention to put on the stress and worry about the stuff we self-created. He provides everything you'll ever need. You will not starve in America. As long as you're not pushing away the world who wants to help you, there is always a place to go and food to eat. And everything else is extra. But if you want to live trying to be someone you're not, chasing something you really don't know what's going to do for you, you're always going to be miserable. You're always going to be behind the 8 ball. Own the life that God's given you. The fact that you're watching this video right now means you're richer than 90% of the world, where they spend their time looking for food or trying not to have their house bombed or their kids stolen from them. We don't have that stuff. We need to be real, be grateful. That's why I have the word grateful up here, because I learned that sometimes I can't be thankful, but I can always be grateful.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Always.
Okay, I'm like, yeah, now you about to make me cry. That was really, really good. But I want to go back to when you talked about the house. Like, so many people get caught up, like they have to have a house and the property taxes, the maintenance, the insurance. Oh, goodness, the maintenance.
The maintenance, yeah.
Yeah.
And so you're saying that you're considering maybe not even buying another house. Can you talk to someone? They want to buy a house, or they may be in a house that's more than the 25% of their take-home pay.
And no one ever thinks about that number. They think, can I somehow get by? Can I afford it? Right. But that's such a lie. We've created this crazy lie of what it is an amount of debt you're allowed to have. I would say, though, whatever your story is, just live below your means. So if for some reason God has given you this much money, then live below that. And if you have this much money, live below that. The parable of the talents talks, some guy got 10, some guy got 5, some guy got 1. Whatever amount you've been blessed with, live below that. So maybe you live in an apartment your whole life. Okay, go visit some other countries. I have a friend I Zoom with every first Friday of the month. He's in Poland. His house is not very nice. His flat is not very nice. And there's a bunch of kids that all live in there, and he and his wife, and they're happy. And they have a very, very poor home. And so I think we've just got to dial in. You don't have to have a house. You don't have to have a car. You don't have to have anything. If you're lucky enough, blessed to have those things, great. But we've got to be real about the journey that God puts us on. If God wanted me to be with all this kind of dough, he would have given it to me. And if I just decide that I deserve this and I'm going to figure out a way to spend that, I'm saying, God, you're not enough. And now I'm putting pressure on God to somehow fix my problems. I don't know. For me, not having a house isn't a big deal anymore. Whenever a hailstorm hits Texas, I'm like, not my roof.
That's true. Fighting with the insurance company about
yeah,
hail damage,
yeah,
you don't have to do that. It don't even matter if it
yeah,
leak.
yeah,
Landlord.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We've been blessed to have a really wonderful landlord. God brought us to this really cool house, and I never asked him to fix anything. I fix it all myself. I pay for it out of my own pocket, and I just feel like that's the kind of tenant I want to be. But we've done all kinds of things to fix this up. Someday, if we ever move, they're going to look at this house and go, "Oh my gosh, this house is beautiful." Because I'm living here, why wouldn't I want to take good care of it? It surprises me that people who rent on the street, the front yard looks like trash and they don't even care. Don't you care when you come and park your car and walk through the front door that these weeds are
Hmm.
everywhere and there's a tree branches down and you live there? Don't you want to make it look nice while you're there? If that's mine, I can't get that.
No, but you're right. I mean, where you are, you're supposed to make it look nice, presentable, at least on the outside and on the inside. So if you invite somebody in, it's presentable
Yeah.
inside and out.
Yeah.
Thomas Robert. So since you rent now, because what comes to my mind is the verse where seek thee first the kingdom of God and all his righteousness and everything else will be added unto you, right? So now that you put God first instead of everything else, you and your wife's life has totally shifted to a place where you are more prosperous now than you were
Oh, let me tell you,
previously.
here's a fact. God blesses obedience. Obedience comes with blessings. And when we made that decision to move out, at the end of 2019, I had 9 clients. After having done this for like 8 years, whatever the number was, I had 9 clients. In 2020, when the world was shutting down, I doubled my business. I went to 21 clients. And they just called me. They're like, "Hey, the world's shutting down with COVID. Are you still running those groups? I need help." And it grew like nuts. The next year it doubled again. I went to 43. And I truly believe, because I didn't do anything any better than I was doing the years before, God rewards our obedience. Now, there is not this prosperity gospel mentality, but
Hmm.
the Bible specifically says you will reap what you sow. And
That's
Absolutely.
if I
right.
sow in giving God the primary focus over my money, then I will reap a reward of money. I don't know how much, but we've learned if we give graciously, he gives us more because we're already showing we're giving graciously.
That's
We
right.
started a giving fund. I don't tell this very often because it sounds really prideful, but we started a giving fund the year we got out of debt. And we said, if we can train our minds to think about money as a tool and not a possession, we'll spend it differently. And so we started so we have our tithe and then we have a giving fund. They both get the same amount of money, whatever we make, big or small, money here and money in the giving fund. So whenever something random comes up, Kathy was at the car dealership and this lady was crying. She's like, "I can't afford this repair." She's like, "I'm taking care of it." And she just could, no tax deduction, just, "Hey, what's her bill? Give it to me. I'll pay right now." And the joy that we have of being able to use God's money to bless people, that so many random things have come up where just the thing is right there and God's like, "Go give that guy money and go use this here." And we have thousands of dollars sitting there ready. So whenever I'm out of dough, because my budget has been wiped out through the month, his money's still there. So whenever he says, "I'd like to take some of my money and use it over here," there's always money there. It is bizarre. It is so rich and rewarding to be able to be actually used for God's purposes like that. So I believe that our obedience has brought blessing and blessing, financial blessing, that is because we've chosen to be obedient. He has rewarded us for that.
Well, we got to keep our word. We told them we weren't going to keep him forever. But I
Yes.
could just talk to you and talk to you and talk to you.
Well, come on up and visit Dallas. Let's hang out.
I'll just have to
Yeah.
do that. And so now, what I need you to do, Mr. Robert, tell everyone the name of your book, where they can find it, and how they can find you.
The name of the book is Nobody Cares Until You Do. It's available on Amazon, Target, Barnes and Noble, all those places, but we prefer you buy it at nobodycaresbook.com because we want to send you a note with that. We want to sign the book and we want to send you a note and we want to help you understand what it's like to be in our community. We want to see your satisfaction assessment. We want to hear your progress. We want to see your stories. And I respond to every email I get. And we are on a quest to help people change their lives through accountability. So come be in our world, order the book from us, give us your information, share your story with us. We want to walk the journey with you. I'm looking to share this story, these principles with businesses and companies and churches and organizations anywhere in the world who wants to have me come up and speak to their people, because this changes lives. So if someone's listening today, has a company and they have a team that they want them to be accountable, bring me up for your next workshop. You can go to my company website, which is refdallas.com, and you can learn all about the leadership things I do and the peer groups I lead. I'm available. I'm out there everywhere.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Robert, we want to thank you for your time and joining the Bartelle's Money Talk. And we look forward to speaking with you again very soon.
Thank you for having me on your podcast.
You're welcome. And again, audience, if you enjoyed this content, please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification button, and we will see you the next time. Thanks again for watching. Thanks for watching.